Marvel is back after people wrote them off, saying they made too much mediocre content recently, and saying that they're over after Endgame. They have finally proven that they could still make good content, because yesterday, Loki Season 2 Episode 1 released, and it was amazing. A lot happened, there's a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. So the season picks up exactly where we left off in Season 1, with Mobius and some of the TVA agents chasing Loki, and Loki is trying to figure out what's happening. Is he in another universe? Did King the Conqueror brainwipe everybody again? And something I really liked about this is as Loki's trying to figure it out, we're also trying to figure it out. We have no clue what's happening, and we're just as confused as he is. And something that I really liked about this opening is that they picked it up right where we left off in Season 1, and I really like that for a couple of reasons. One is it helps it feel like a continued story. It feels like in Season 1 and 2, it feels like it's the same story through both. And another reason is I would feel kind of robbed if we had this big cliffhanger ending, and then they just kind of picked up a couple days later when, Loki has it all figured out. That would kind of suck. And, I mean, I doubt they would do that because it'd be ridiculous, but I'm really happy that they kind of just went with the, like immediately after we just see what happens. But then we get this awesome chase scene that reminds me a lot of Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, when, like Loki jumps out of the window onto one of these, like, flying car things. Like, it feels identical to when Obi-Wan jumps through the window onto that droid that was trying to kill Padme. And now that I think about it, could Obi-Wan be a Loki variant? But I thought this scene was really cool because we get to explore a lot more of the TVA. We get to see that, like, there's, like, people's houses, there's mailmans. I don't know what kind of packages people are getting in the TVA, but, I mean, it exists. And we kind of see that it's actually just, like, a little city. And I think that's pretty cool, except for the fact that everybody here is kidnapped, brainwashed, and will never be able to leave ever in their lives. But it's still cool. But then we finally start getting some answers on what's happening here, because Loki, the car that he's in, crashes into this office building and leaves a really distinct crack in the floor, and then right when Loki is about to get captured, because again nobody remembers him, so they're going to capture him and prune him, he starts to glitch out, almost like they do in Spider-Verse, and as that's happening, the room around him transforms, and he goes into what looks like either a different universe or a different timeline, because everybody remembers him again. And right as he's about to tell Casey from Season 1 that he just got transported from a different, like, universe, he realizes that the crack that he made is still in the floor, and when he asks how long it's been there, they say it's been there since as long as he could remember. And then finally it's revealed that Loki is time traveling, and he was just in the past. Now this brings up a lot of questions for me. One, why is this happening? Why is Loki glitching out? Why is he time slipping? And two, why is Kang no longer, like, a part of the TVA? Like, clearly in the past, he was a part of it. He was interacting with TVA agents. He was working, like, in the city. But now, for some reason, he's covered it all up with the Timekeepers. He's basically hiding himself from the TVA. And he basically just, like, moved away to the shadows in the void. Could something have happened that made him, leave and work in the shadows because he was nervous? Or did he see something that was going to happen in the future that he decided he wasn't going to let it happen and just moved away and hid in the shadow? And now that we're on the topic of Kang, I do want to say I've seen a lot of people really mad and annoyed that he wasn't in this episode, and me personally, I don't really understand that. Like, this episode is solely to set up the rest of the season. Like I said, they set up the TVA storyline, they set up Sylvie's storyline later on, they set up Loki's storyline, they set up more Mobius, they set up everybody. Like, this is solely a setup episode, and it did its job. It set up a story for everybody to go on, at least for the first half of the season. And again, it's the first episode. I don't think it's really something to get upset about, because Kang is going to be in the next couple of episodes, I'm sure. He's going to have a big role in the season, but also, again, it's a Loki show. It's not a Kang show. I want to see Kang too. I wish we could get a whole show about him, but this is a Loki show, where they're going to focus on Loki and his story. Kang is just a character in that show. But then we learn what the TVA storyline is going to be this season, or at least for a couple of episodes, which is they want to find Sylvie no matter what the cost. They are sending literally every single TVA agent after her. And the scene we find this out in is a scene with, like, Mobius and Hunter B-15. And they're in kind of this, like, council of, like, people that I guess kind of decide what happens in the TVA. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit upset because I thought it was gonna be like the Council of Kangs. Because when Loki was in this room in the past, it was like the statue of, like, 5 different Kang heads And I was really hoping that it was going to be like a Council of Kangs. Maybe it was in the past, but at least right now, it's just like 3 senior citizens. One of them is like dead. It's just literally sleeping there. Somebody needs to check on that guy, because literally for the 20-minute scene, he's just laying there like dead. But in this scene, Mobius and B-15 are trying to convince the council that, like, the TVA isn't really real. The timekeepers are obviously fake, everybody knows that. So everybody is kind of in a panic, because like they say in the show, everything that these people have lived with, have been working towards, is all a lie. They thought the timekeepers were, like, these important beings. They were just robots. And then also the fact that they're realizing that they had other lives in the timeline. You know, they weren't meant to be TVA agents. They were real people that got ripped out of their homes, ripped out of their timelines to work here. So everybody's trying to figure out what to do with the TVA, what to do with Sylvie, what to do with Loki. It's a big mess. But then that scene gets cut kind of short because Loki appears back from the past, and then him and Mobius kind of go out, and then they figure out that they need to get Loki fixed, because him going from the past to the present is not going to work for them, because they need him there to help them. So they go to one of my favorite characters in the show that they just introduced, Opie, who's played by Ki Hui Kwan, who's an amazing actor. I'm really happy they brought him into the show. And then we kind of get into what the rest of this episode is going to be about, and that's curing Loki. And then we get this really funny scene where Loki time slips into the past and is now interacting with with Obi from like however many years in the past it is. And as Loki's explaining it to him, Obi in present time is remembering it. So it's kind of like the 3 of them are trying to figure it out while they're all in different timelines. And it's just a really hilarious scene where he's kind of figuring things out as Loki's explaining it in the past and he's telling Mobius what's happening. It's kind of confusing to explain, but once you watch it, it's so funny. And I have to say, these 4 right here, I really hope that this is kind of like a team that we get to keep seeing, because the 4 of them are so hilarious together, especially Mobius and Obi. They're just hilarious together. Like, Owen Wilson and Ki Hui Kwan are amazing actors, and they're so funny that they kind of like work off of each other in this scene. And I don't know, I just hope the 4 of these people, Loki, Hunter B-15, Obi, and Mobius, kind of all stay together as a team throughout this season, because I love seeing them together, and it reminds me of like, it's like their own version of like the Avengers. And then we learn that in order to fix Loki, they have to go to, I believe, the time vortex, and they have to basically prune Loki so he goes into the time vortex, and then they have to pull him out of it, which is going to be apparently a pretty difficult task, because if they don't do it exactly right, Loki will be lost in time, and Mobius is going to lose all of his skin. But right as it's about to go down, right as they're going to start the mission, Loki time slips into what we think is the past, but then it's revealed that it is actually the future, and let me just say, it's not looking too good for the TVA in the future. It's like falling apart. There's alarms going off, sirens everywhere. It's basically empty. And then Loki is running around in the future, trying to find like a pruning device so he can prune himself and get pulled out of there. Everything is chaos. It looks like it's about to go downhill. Mobius is about to run out of time. Loki's about to run out of time. Until suddenly Loki sees Sylvie in an elevator, and then somebody from behind Loki prunes him, and then the mission is successful. Loki is fixed. Loki gets pulled out of the time vortex, and then they're both safe. But I'm really excited to see where this goes, because a lot of people are wondering, who is it that pruned Loki? Because it's clearly not Sylvie, because Sylvie was in the elevator. And me personally, I think it's a future version of Loki, for a couple of reasons. One, it would just make a lot of sense, because Loki knows that he needs to be pruned. And 2, when Sylvie sees Loki when she gets out of the elevator, she says, "There you are," like she's just like finding him like they got lost. So I think those 2 were probably working together. They got split up, and then Loki sees past Loki and prunes him because he knows that's the only way that he's gonna succeed in the mission. But who knows, maybe it's not Loki, maybe it's another character, maybe it's somebody we've never even met before. But I think we will see this scene from that person's perspective, whoever it was that saved him, and that's gonna be pretty cool. I think that this is going to be one of like the big mysteries, one of the big reveals later on in the season. You know, who was it that pruned Loki that saved him? And then the final shot of the episode, we see all of the TVA hunters going through one of their portals somewhere, and they're carrying a ton of equipment, a ton of weapons. And like Hunter B-15 says, there's no way that this is all for Sylvie. I think that they're trying to find Sylvie, but I think they're also trying to look for somebody else that we might not know about yet, and it's going to be one of those big mysteries. And then for this episode, we actually do have a post-credit scene, and the post-credit scene is nothing too big. It's Sylvie walking through one of the portals to a McDonald's in like the 1800s, and she kind of just is asking for all the food that she can get. She's probably starving. I mean, being in the void for that long, it does probably make you hungry, but she has no clue what a McDonald's is, so it's kind of just a funny scene. But we do know that this McDonald's, or a McDonald's, is going to play a big part of the season, because they released a ton of, like, footage from the McDonald's, and apparently they were filming there for, like, a couple of weeks. So I think this McDonald's is going to be actually a bigger role than we think it's going to be right now, so I cannot wait to see that. But man, I feel great. Ahsoka was amazing. Loki looks like it's going to be amazing. So having good content from both Marvel and Star Wars is a pretty rare thing. So I'm going to enjoy it. I'm loving it right now. Hopefully they keep putting out great content so we can keep enjoying it. And yeah, if they just keep putting out good stuff, people will still watch it. That's going to be it for the breakdown and review. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. What you guys want to see in the future of the season. And remember, with great power comes great responsibility. See ya.